Hey guys, happy Math Monday. This week we are going to be talking about area, finding the area of different shapes. The first shape we're going to look at is rectangles, and then we'll look at triangles, and then we'll look at trapezoids. This is the formula chart from the STAR test. It tells you all three formulas for each of the shapes. And if you look at them carefully, they may look a little different than what you have seen in the past. So as we go through each shape, we'll talk about how they are different from what you're used to looking at. So the first shape we're going to look at is the area of rectangles. Now this could be squares or rectangles, either one. This first shape that we're looking at is just a plain rectangle. And on that chart, you notice this, it said that the formula was BH, A equals BH. That is the exact same thing that you have always done with length times width. It's just called BH for base and height. So where it says name the figure, we'll put rectangle. And then the formula will be A equals BH. B standing for base and H standing for height. So in this rectangle, the base is going to be the 16 feet. And the height would be the 4 feet. So to figure out what the area is, where it says show what you know, we're going to write B, and we see that the B base is 16 feet. And H height is 4 feet. And then we're going to plug those numbers into the formula. Area of a rectangle is base times height, so A equals 16 times 4. Again, remember, parentheses around a number right next to another number means to multiply. So it would be the same thing as 16 times 4. We're just getting used to not having that multiplication sign and having the parentheses instead. So then over here where it says work it out, that's where you're going to show your work. We're multiplying 16 times 4. If you need to work it out up and down, you can do that. So the final answer would be 64, and the unit of measurement is feet, and because we're finding area, it would be squared. Remember, area is how much will cover a surface. So if we were finding the area, we would want to know how much would cover this entire rectangle. So that's why it's feet squared. Now let's do another rectangle. Okay, this time, when we look at our shape, this rectangle only has one dimension listed. We just have that it's 9 yards. This is a square, so all sides are going to be the same length. So when I say name the figure, I would write square. the formula for a square is going to be the same as the formula for a rectangle. A equals BH. When we show what we know, the base, which is this, is 9 yards, and because it's a square and all sides are the same, the height is also going to be 9 yards. We plug that into the formula. 9 times 9. 9 times 9 is a basic fact, so you really don't even have to show anything over here on Work It Out. 9 times 9 is 81. The unit of measurement is yards. And because we're finding area, it would be yards squared. So the area of that square is 81 square yards. Okay, so that's rectangles. Now let's look at parallelograms. A parallelogram is a rectangle that is tilted. It's leaning. The formula for a parallelogram is the exact same as the formula of a rectangle. So when I say name the figure, I'm going to put parallelogram. The formula, A equals BH. When you're looking at the figure, looking at the parallelogram, we don't have a number on the bottom, but we know that the length of the top and the length of the bottom are the same. So the top could be the base, or the bottom could be the base. It doesn't matter which one is listed because they have the same length. Notice we don't have any side lengths. That does not tell us how tall the parallelogram is. That's not the height. That's just the length of the side. And we don't need those numbers. They're going to try and trick you by putting a number over here. So if there were a 5 millimeter here on the side, you don't need that. You only need the base, and then this would be the height. And most of the time you will have a dotted line telling you that that is the height, and it will be inside the parallelogram. So on show what you know, base is 12 millimeters, height is 8 millimeters. Plug that into the formula. A equals 12 times 8. 12 times 8 is a basic fact. If you need to work it out over here in Work It Out section, go ahead and do that. So my final answer would be A equals 96 millimeters squared. So parallelograms and rectangles are very similar. They have the same formula to find the area. And here's another parallelogram just for more practice. And when you're filling in the chart, the name of the figure, parallelogram, the formula, area equals base times height. Okay, this time when we look at the figure, we see that 9.2 centimeters is on the bottom. So that would be the base. And 12.6 is next to this dotted line with the right angle symbol. A lot of times it'll have the right angle symbol there so that you know that is the height. So the base equals 9.2 centimeters. The height equals 12.6 centimeters. We're going to plug that into the formula, taking the b out, putting 9.2 in, taking the h out, and putting 12.6 in. So we're multiplying 12.6 times 9.2. Remember, when you're multiplying decimals, you don't have to line your decimals up. It works out that they're lined up for this number, but you don't need to. And don't forget to move your decimal, the number of places that are behind the decimal in the problem. There's 1, 2, so move your decimal 2 places to the left. So your final answer would be, the area is 1,159 and 2/10 centimeters squared. That is parallelograms. Okay, next shape is going to be triangles. Okay, so let's go ahead and fill in the chart. Our shape is a triangle. The formula for the area of a triangle: A equals 1/2 BH. 1/2 of the base times the height, because a triangle is half of a rectangle. If we drew this here, this is a rectangle. We only want the area of this part, which is a triangle. So you're taking the area of a rectangle and you're halving it. So that's why the formula is half base times height. This is the base. 11 centimeters would be going on the bottom. And 5 is the height, how tall the triangle is. So show what you know. Base, 11 centimeters. Height, 5 centimeters. Plug it into the formula. A equals half 11 times 5. So over here, work it out. You can multiply, always multiply the base and the height together and then divide it by 2. Or you could find half of the base and multiply it by the height. Or you could find half of the height and multiply it by the base. Halving either one of these numbers is going to give you a decimal. So it probably isn't the best idea to half either one of those first. It would be easier to multiply the base and the height, and then we'll divide that by 2. So 11 times 5 is 55. And now we're multiplying half times 55, or dividing 55 by 2. 2 will go into 5 twice. 2 will go into 15 7 times. We don't have anything left to bring down, and we're not doing a remainder, so we're going to add a decimal and a 0, bring it down, and 2 will go into 10 5 times. So half of 55 is 27.5 27.5. So the area of that triangle would be 27.5 centimeters squared. All you're doing is taking half of a rectangle, and that gives you the area of a triangle. Now let's do another triangle just to keep practicing. Okay, this triangle has the dimensions of 15 centimeters by 13 centimeters. Again, sometimes they may give you the length of the side, the slanted side of the triangle. So if we had 12 centimeters here, we don't need anything on the sides. You need the base, the bottom, and you need the height, which would be inside the triangle. So you don't need that 12. So our figure is a triangle. The formula, half BH, half base times height. Let's show what we know. We know the base is equal to 15 centimeters. And the height is equal to 13 centimeters. We're going to plug those numbers into the formula. Half times 15 times 13. Okay, let's go and work it out. Okay, again, on this one, if we half 15 or we half 13, that's going to get us a number that is a decimal. So you may not want to half either one of these. You may want to go ahead and multiply the base and the height, and then we'll divide it by 2. So I'm going to multiply 15 times 13. And I get 195. So now we're going to divide 195 by 2. We need to cut it in half. Two will go into 19 9 times. 2 will go into 15 7 times. And we don't want a remainder. We're going to add a decimal and a 0. And 2 will go into 10 5 times. So the area of the rectangle, of the triangle, is 97.5 centimeters squared. Okay, so that's how you find area of triangles. We have one more shape, and it is the trapezoid. The area of a trapezoid, there's a little bit more to this one. So one more step than you have with a triangle. Let's go ahead and fill in trapezoid. And the formula for the area of a trapezoid is half B1 plus B2 times the height. B1 and B2, those are the bases. Those are going to be the sides that are parallel in a trapezoid. So in this example, this is going to be a base, and this is a base, because these two sides are parallel to each other. We're not looking at the slanted sides. We don't need these. We need the bases. And it doesn't matter which one is base 1 or base 2. If you want the top to always be base 1 and the bottom to be base 2, that's fine. or if you want the bottom to be base 1 and the top to be base 2. As long as you have both of the bases, it doesn't matter. So B1, I'm going to say is 2 centimeters, and B2 is 14 centimeters. And then I also need the height, which again will be inside the trapezoid, usually next to a dotted line. Height is 6 centimeters. Okay, we're going to take those numbers and we're going to plug it into the formula. A equals 1/2 times B1, which is 2, plus B2, which is 14, times the height, which is 6. Now let's go over and work it out. 1/2 times 2 plus 14 times 6. We have to follow the order of operations. So we're going to go inside the parentheses and we're going to add the bases first. 1/2 times 2 plus 14 is 16 times 6. Once we add the bases together, now we're back to the formula of a triangle, because we have base and height and we're halving it. So this is back to what we were doing with the triangles. And remember, you have the choice to half 16, or you could half 6, or you could multiply 16 times 6 and then half it. Since you could half 16 evenly, that's what I'm going to do. Half of 16 is 8. So I'm going to do this, and now that's gone. And that leaves me 8 times 6, which is 48. And I'll show you if you didn't half the base. If you wanted to multiply the base times the height, again, if you always want to do it that way, always multiply the base times the height and then half it. You can. It works every time. I'm just showing you that you have an option. So if we multiplied 16 times 6, that's 96. So then we would have to half 96. 2 will go into 9 4 times, and 2 will go into 16 8 times. So you get the same answer either way. You could even half 6 if you wanted to. Half of 6 is 3, and 16 times 3 is 48. So no matter which way you do it, you should get the same answer, an area of 48 centimeters squared. All right, let's do another trapezoid. Okay, this time our trapezoid looks like it's upside down. It doesn't matter. You still have the bases that you need and you have the height that you need. Figure is a trapezoid. Formula, half B1 plus B2 times the height. Okay, this time I'm going to say that 95 is base 1 and 58 is base 2. Again, it doesn't matter which one you pick as base 1 and base 2. Inside and the dotted line, that would be the height. Again, you don't need these sides. The slanted sides you don't need. If there are dimensions there, you just ignore them. So we have B1 is 95, B2 is 58, height is 16. I'm going to plug those numbers into the formula. Half times 95 plus 58 times 16. Let's work it out. Again, following the order of operations, we have to add inside the parentheses first. So 95 plus 58. If you need to write it out to the side, you can write it out to the side. 95 plus 58. $153. Half times 153 times 16. Now you're back to the triangle, so you have the choice. You could go ahead and multiply 153 times 16 and then half it. That would get you a pretty big number. I think I'm going to go ahead and half 16 just to make my numbers a little bit smaller. Half of 16 is 8. So now I would have 153 times 8. I got rid of these two. I'm going to multiply 153 times 8. I get 1,224. So 1,224 would be the area of the trapezoid, 1,224 meters squared. Okay, that's the area of trapezoids. Well, that's all of the shapes that you're going to do. We did squares, rectangles, parallelograms, triangles, and trapezoids. There's one other way that you need to look at area, and that's when they give you the area of a shape and you have to find the missing part. Okay, so this time this gives you the area of, or the parallelogram is the shape, and it gives us the base, which happens to be on the side, but it's a parallel side, so it's okay, and it gives you the height. But the height is with an H, so we don't know the exact dimension, but we do know that the total area is 96 meters squared. So we have to figure out what the height of this parallelogram is. So we're going to put in the information that we know in these blanks. I know that the area is 96. And I know the formula for the area of a parallelogram is base times height. So the base is 12. So I'm going to put 12 here. I don't know the height, so I'm going to put H here. So now we're just solving this equation. We're looking for the value of H, the variable. I'm going to fill this in. 96 equals 12H. 12 times H. The opposite of multiplication is division. So I would divide both sides by 12 because I want to isolate the variable. Remember, you're trying to figure out what H is. The 12s cancel each other out. That leaves H. Bring it down. And 96 divided by 12 is 8. So the missing part of the formula for this problem would be the height is equal to 8. So you're solving an equation to help you figure out the missing part. Okay, here's another example. Okay, this time we have a trapezoid. The area of a trapezoid, half times B1 plus B2 times the height. it tells us the area is 26 centimeters squared. So I'm going to put 26 here. It gives us the two bases, 9 and 4. So I'm going to fill those in where the bases go. And we don't know the height. That's what we're looking for. So I'm going to put an H for height. This is 26. We're going to go ahead and add 9 plus 4. And 9 plus 4 is 13. So half times 13 times H, the height, which we don't know what it is yet. From here, we're going to go ahead and half 13. Okay, half of 13. If you divide it by 2, is 6.5. So we have 6.5 H and 26. So we need to divide both sides by 6.5. And now we're dividing 26.5 by 6.5. These cancel each other out, and that leaves H here. Remember, you can't have a decimal on the outside, so we move the decimal. If you move it on the outside, you have to move it on the inside. We're going to add a 0. 65 will go into 260. That's not a basic fact, we know, so we're going to need to just try it out. Let's try 65 times 5. Just see where it gets us. 30, that's 325. So that's too much. So let's go down to 65 times 4. $260 exactly. So that would mean that the height is equal to 4 centimeters. Solving that equation to find the missing part. Okay, let's do one more. This time we have a triangle, and we're trying to find the height of the triangle. We know the area of a triangle is half base times height. We know the base is 18, but we don't know the height. The total area is 81. So we're going to fill in the information that we know. 81 is the total area. Half the base is 18, and we don't know the height. We're using the variable h. Okay, let's go ahead and half 18. Half of 18 is 9. And the h, we know it's 81, is the total area. We see multiplication, so we're going to divide both sides by 9 so we can isolate the variable. We have h by itself, and 81 divided by 9 is 9. So the missing height is 9 feet. Okay, that is all that you really need to know for finding area. You can go back and watch this video if you need to. I'm going to put a copy of these pages all together just as a PDF, so you can just look at it without having to go back to the video and watch it. There will also be a blank copy, so you can print it off if you need to, if you want to go back in and fill in the notes yourself. So use these notes to help you as you complete the Google Slides. presentation. They should be very similar, just different numbers, but use those as a guide to kind of help you go through. I hope that everybody understands, and if you don't, please let me know. Leave me a comment in Google Classroom or send me a message on Remind or send me an email, and I will be glad to help you. Sure miss you guys. See y'all next week.